Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another Russian cast. And today we're having a look at a game played on the Korean server, and it is a game of Aurelion Sol in Challenger Elo. We're gonna spectate a couple of these for the next coming day, so if you're interested in Aurelion Sol, let us make a deal. I will upload the videos, and you will hit subscribe or at least bookmark the channel so you can come back. All right, so a couple of things on Aurelion Sol. Number one is Aurelion Sol is very strong. He seems to be very strong. However, he does struggle with mages that are assassins and with anything that is able to punish someone who's kind of locking themselves down, right? So the thing is, he has incredible damage, but also quite immobile if using your Q. So there will be fights where you can just not use it, right? And then assassins are a problem, just like with Victor. So that is the briefing on that. The next would be the runes. So people take First Strike on him, people also take Comment, and people take Eri. Conqueror is recommended, absolutely doesn't make any sense, it doesn't stack with your Q, so absolutely not. Don't do it. Conqueror, not the ideal. So currently people have been experimenting with all the mage items. Rod of Ages seems to be one of the more reliable ones. If you're feeling spicy, then Luden's Echo will do it as well, as it allows you to clear waves faster and deal a good amount of damage bonus. So the decision is that one, exactly. So then there is the Q max that Riot wants you to do. Do not do that. It is E max all the way. Maybe there are some matchups where you want to go Q max, but pretty much every matchup is a E max matchup that I have played so far and that I've seen people play, like LS and so on and so forth. At this point, I'll mention most of my information comes from watching Nemesis, LS, Yamato Cannon, and who else did I watch? I think that's it. I think that's it. So I've watched these. I've played it myself in the games that I was able to. Don't have them on my diamond account, unfortunately. Don't have the money, but I have played them on my gold account. So the thing is this one. I think that Aurelion Sol is a pretty nutty champion, but he takes a while to get going, right? So obviously you're starting with that tier, you're gonna go Rod of Ages. And then eventually, ooh, the Q doesn't show up correctly in the, oh, you're dead. Oh, beautiful flash Q from Maokai. Very well done. So yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the Q doesn't seem to show up. Spectator bugs are a thing. They are constant. They are outrageously annoying. It is what it is. However, that's totally fine. We will, we will just have to deal with that. So his new W, not that crazy. If you know old Aurelion Sol, this one, his new W, it has much shorter range, so it is way less of a roam tool, and it's more of a, get back to your turret a little bit quicker and, fly over a wall stuff tool. However, once you reach level 18, it does cover half the map-ish. And I think it also scales with your shards. Now, the shards, you gain them by executing, I think, big minions and champions and so on. And you can gather stacks with your Q. So by queuing enemies, you will kind of gather those. Q is this long ray, and it has this kind of timer ticking inside of it. You'll see it if he uses it. Probably won't use it versus Orianna much. You generally use it versus a tank that is locked down, something like that. But yeah, here you saw it. It has these little orbs. They gather, they count, and then there is a big pop of damage, and you collect some Stardust. So that's pretty good, right? And generally, for a game that's going well, you say 10 Stardust per minute. So kind of like with CS. However, with CS, people usually say like 9 CS per minute, right? That's more realistic. But yeah, so he is pretty strong when he's not contested. Now, Orianna, interestingly enough, probably not going to have a good time against him because his range slightly higher than hers, and especially his ultimate's range. So his ultimate just drops a comet, does a lot of damage, and if you gather 75 Stardust between each cast, basically, your ultimate will turn into Falling Skies or Skies Descent instead of Falling Comet thingamabob, and that just gives you a big one, very big AoE, and that big one will also send a shockwave that like damages slightly and slows champions. And the very cool thing here, yeah, this is exactly what you can do, is you can use your W together with your Q to move and Q at the same time. So basically you W and then you press Q. It does slow you down, but you are able to deal damage to the enemy. And here, Aurelion Sol is going Q max, so I believe this is something that Nemesis has done that too. However, I've heard from a lot of people, not only LS, but LS is definitely one of them, heard that it isn't the best idea to go for that because you don't really have enough lane control. Now, you do more damage in a way, but you also need the target to be somewhat locked down for you to be able to extract damage out of your Q. So if you're, I would assume that if you actually have some kill pressure onto the enemy, then it might be a good idea to start Q. Otherwise, go for that E max. It's gonna get you a good amount of damage early on, and give you a lot of wave control and very strong zone control. Now, the thing is that if you go for an E max, you will not be very strong at skirmishing. So that is kind of the downside of it, is Aurelion Sol is incredibly good at skirmishing if you use your Q. So, oh yeah, I've also watched Mid Beast. That's right. Just a little bit though. But yeah. So did we just flash? We just flashed. I'm pretty sure he wanted to ghost. So I don't know if this happened to him, but something that happened to me before is ridiculous, by the way. Absolutely funny. Whenever it happens, oh, the Skies Descent. Well, actually, Falling Star. And the Q pop, and oh my god, he is alive. That is one kill going over to the enemy team, probably more. That's kind of rough. Alright, we're gonna recall. Interesting. If Pyke is not going around, I think he's actually trolling. He is. Okay, interesting. Well, it is what it is. That was a semi-effective fight. But what I wanted to say is the Rune Swapper, right? The Rune Swapper that they added, or the Rune Recommender. I used it a couple of times. And ever since, first of all, my normal rune pages are broken. I always have to go through the Rune Swapper. That's number one. Number two is it switched around my summoner spells once, and I did exactly what he did there. I just flashed on an enemy instead of igniting them. Ended up getting the kill anyway, but I was very sad because it looked absolutely ridiculous and stupid, and yeah, not a big fan. All right, so Aurelion Sol definitely a late game machine, which means that the early game is a little bit sketchy. Qmax makes you much stronger in the early game than the Emax. But interestingly enough, we are not fully maxing the Q here. We're now putting 2 points into the E. Oh, never mind. Never mind. It's level 8. You have to. Right. So Rod of Ages has been available. Oh yeah. Another thing that I put down in my notes is I think that on him, if you go Rod of Ages, a lot of the time, Futures Market seems to be amazing. As Minion Dematerializer is okay, but I haven't felt like it gave me the same value, because with Futures Market, I can recall into very, very strong timings versus enemies. So try to hard push out a lane and then go back and get a Catalyst, for example. That seems to work very well. I still have yet to try the Luden's Echo build, because this build is just, it feels so good to go for this because you're so tanky, right? So maybe if you have a like really strong front line, maybe you can gamble and go Luden's Echo, but in any other occasion, I would personally probably go with the Rod of Ages at this current point. But we will see. Obviously, I'll keep you guys updated on the builds. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that Seraph's Embrace on Luden's Echo build, probably not crazy good, but still, I think still worth it, because first of all, you have good mana consumption if you use your Q a lot. Oh, the Ash Arrow coming through. It's gonna hit. Well, he's dead. Don't use your ultimate. Good. Unlucky, dude. Yeah, and of course, if people jump on you, it can be much harder to deal with them. One thing that you can do is you can W away and Q meanwhile. Kind of run away, kite them while dealing damage. Sounds pretty sick, right? But it also does slow you down, so, you know, it's questionable. Generally, though, I would say that, yeah, the range is not quite what it used to be, huh? So here, this little icon, this is also shown to the enemies. This means he has the Star's Descent, and that is his ultimate in a charged up form. It's a little bit like Corki package. You have to respect it once it is there, as he is quite a bit more scary once he has it. All right. No, that was not. So the difficult thing with your E, the placement of your E is actually quite hard, because it has relatively high cooldown and you rely a lot on it for wave clear. So yeah, that's pretty rough. And yeah, you have negative wave clear if you don't max your Q. So as you can see here, obviously he's struggling quite a bit with it. Good thing is he has his ultimate now, so he is super strong in a gank. If it was a 2v2, definitely very, very strong in any skirmish right now. And otherwise, I mean, you know, the goal is to farm up. Like, there's nothing crazy going to happen here. I like that the Orianna is actually going for, yeah, I like that. I like that the Orianna has decided to go for Phase Rush. It sounds like a very smart choice versus him. Oh, there was a ward there. Must be Vincenzo noticed. No one else though. Ooh, so this would have been an angle where he can like W over the wall and Q, and you can do a lot of damage. So I'm a big fan of it. The problem is you are obviously telegraphing how you're going to move, right? So you're gonna be easy to kill if the enemy has the damage, right? If the Pyke has his hookup, he can just hook you out, kill you. But you know, there are these situations where you can just chase after someone like Orianna and just run after her, and yeah, I mean, she can try to run away with Phase Rush, but with your W, you're still pretty fast. And then you can let go of the Q, meanwhile, to speed yourself up a little bit and then start queuing again during the flight. So, you know, there are a couple of options. All right, we're moving further towards Seros Embrace. Again, right? Your W scales with levels and with shards, I think. So that is going to be your last max ability, of course. And this is the other one, is it becomes much stronger later on. And that leaves us with the difficult problem of, okay, so we are kind of reliant on teleport early. However, then later on, you have so much mobility that teleport can feel kind of weird, right? And having something like a exhaust can help you greatly, because if people commit to you, oftentimes you will be able to chase them down if they can't kill you fast enough, right? So something like exhaust can obviously just slow down an enemy's attack speed and just take them out, and then the main damage is out and you can just chase them down. So there are some summoner spells that have super high value on him. Ignite I personally don't love, but he is a little all-inny. For a mage, he's very all-inny with the way he trades, which means that it can be a good item to kind of, you know, push you over the edge of damage. So yeah, one of his strongest suits is that E, and being able to kind of just hold down a wave before the turret, because minions cannot move inside. So oftentimes you can just let the enemy push you in and then just press E on the wave and it'll die in front of the turret, not walk into the turret, which is ridiculously good. Okay, we're playing it safe. Ashe support kind of scary. Oh, it is an Ashe AD. I don't know what it is with this weird AD build where people go Hydra. I recently tried that as well. But I still feel like you would want something like the Mandate and then the Hydra. Well, it is what it is. Ghost will be activated. The Q will be activated as well. And we do damage to the Orianna, but the kill goes over to Hecarim. And, I mean, let's be honest. Like, this feels pretty lame damage-wise right now. Like, Victor at this point will do more damage. However, we haven't used our ultimate yet. And I think this is a little bit of an issue of the Aurelion Soul. Is if you save up that ultimate, you lose a lot of resources. Because you're constantly stacking, right? But if you use your ultimate now, you only get 1 or 2 Sky's Descent per game, where if you constantly use it off cooldown and you're constantly fighting, then you get many, many more. It's hard to say how many I got last game. Would probably be 3 or 4 or 5. It was a very long game. We ended up coming out ahead. And I did, what, 70k damage? Where the average was at like 40k or something. So, worked out pretty well. And generally feels like an incredibly strong pick for the later game, because you can just W in and just press WR onto the enemy team, and if you have the Sky's Descent, you will stun the entire enemy team if you hit it correctly. And if you do, then it's absolutely over for them. Orianna being very aggressive. It's gonna move her way out now. So now the Ooh, the Rod of Ages is stacked, and the Seraph's Embrace is coming in a couple of seconds. So we are about to power up big, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. The Sky's Descent. The E wasn't perfect, but that was great. Huge ultimate out of the Orianna as well, though. And now we are kind of lacking the damage as we are being chased down. Once the W is available again, we would be able to kite that back. But right now we are just a sitting duck if we end up fighting. And that is the main problem with him. And it ended up swinging very, very heavily towards the blue team here. Kind of an unfortunate situation here for the Aurelion Sol. As a Seraph's Embrace stacked and procced, which means it did give him value this fight already. Probably stacked pretty early on. I didn't really look for it, but that was a huge Orianna ult, obviously hitting even more people than him, than his ult did, right? And now we don't have Sky's Descent for the fight, which is kind of rough. Ah, beautiful hook shot. Animation cancel, or not animation cancel, but CC cancel. Great tech. All right. So what's that W range now? I mean, yeah, it's starting to become impactful. One cool thing is you can kind of fly over the pits and deal damage to the dragons while doing that. So here, for example, he could also W over onto the Orianna and just, yeah. Okay, well, not exactly like this. The enemy team does respect. We do hit Orianna, and Orianna will go down here eventually. But Flash is invested by Samira and an ultimate. Orianna didn't really hit a great ultimate this fight, so the fight is much more winnable. And there is a good amount of damage here available for the Aurelion Sol now. And one thing that he is really good at is doing these objectives. So you will start to see this here. But he does a lot of damage to this. Like a lot of damage. Optimally, you want to keep your E until later on while doing the dragon. But still, you know, good amount of damage, this champion. And I think that he's, I mean, honestly, I personally love the way that he plays. I'm just used to Victor, and Victor is able to very quickly move back and kite and can turn a unfortunate situation for himself very well. Where Aurelion Sol seems to be more calculated in a way, where you can't really embark on these journeys that Victor can because of his Q and his E. You have to be a little bit more careful, but the Sky's Descent is such a crazy tool. Pretty unmatched, I would say. I mean, Nico Ultimate can be similarly as impactful, but this has much more range. So, you will have noticed that his E also grew with game length. Now, you might think that is because he put points into it, but matter of fact, that is not. As, ooh, huge steal by the Maokai. But the fight still goes the red team's favor. Unfortunate. And yeah, here we see the W drift with a Q. Yeah, you see him deal good amount of damage, 251 on the proc there. As he will take down the Ashe as well. Or at least assist in the takedown. And yeah, that was a great fight. I mean, we did lose Baron. So no Baron available, I guess. But still ended up wiping the entire enemy team. So it's half as bad. And yeah, his E scales with Stardust that he absorbs. So later on, it can be very large. I mean, we're already kind of starting to see, but I'm going to cast tomorrow. I'm going to cast my game that I played on him, and you will see how insanely huge it is. Was a very interesting one, and the E is, yeah, it has ridiculous range. If you collect enough Stardust. All right, so we are pretty much there now, very close to Sky's Descent again. You see that via the little bar over his ultimate icon that is displayed for you as Aurelion Sol in game as well. in a similar manner. And you see how he is grabbing a couple of those stacks. Alright, we are now moving down into the bottom lane here, activating Ghost for further W range. And that is going to be the E. Unfortunately, doesn't get a... oh, okay, takes down the Pike here, I guess. But unfortunately, doesn't get more kills. But the ultimate is available. And the inner circle of the ultimate executes enemies. So that is something that you want to be careful with positioning correctly. So it can be tempting to press E and then ult because the enemy will be slowed. However, then oftentimes the enemy will not be in the center of your W, and that means that you will not get the execute on them, and that is vital if you're playing versus certain AD carries. For example, I was playing versus Kog'Maw. I noticed that during the game. So let's have a look. Okay, we are going to Rylai's here next now. I personally did build Rabadons, and Rabadons feels amazing. Like, you do so much damage. Rylai's going to be considerably less damage, but, you know, you will be able to... I mean, your W already slows, so the only thing where it really matters is your Q, because it doesn't really matter on your ultimate. And your E already slows. So, at the end of the day, Rylai's, this is why I decided against Rylai's, is like, I don't know, maybe it's good, but it's literally just good for your Q. So, that's a little bit questionable. Karma, Aurelion Sol synergy. Aye. Alright, well, Maokai still being him. Absolutely annoying. So one thing that I think, if you're playing versus Aurelion Sol, a couple of things. First of all, close the distance. That's number one. Number two, the guy is really good at taking objectives, so you have to respect that. He is ridiculous. Look at his objective damage. This is crazy. Yeah, so very, very good at dealing damage to those. And obviously, also, just really good in these objective fights, as you can lock down the entire river with him. You can lock down the entire river, and that is kind of unbalanced. In case I have to spell that out for you, obviously. I find that quite obvious, and yeah, it's rough. Alright, we're ghosting. Pressing that W. It's level 16. We're not quite there, but the range should be considerably larger now. Yeah. Should be a decent range, but beautiful ultimate by the Orianna, huh? Oh, that was great. I think Orianna actually hit the ball in the wall there. This is something that you can do as Orianna, is you can hide the ball in terrain and then move it forward to hit good ultimates. Is what you have to do later on anyway in these fights, because in high reloads, people respect the Q a lot. And so, at least when I first hit high reloads, I started to absolutely tilt because I would never get an ultimate off as, whoa, Samira going all in. Well, didn't work out so well, did it, Samira? Who would have seen that coming? Interesting. Samira also going Collector second here, which is not appropriate for the patch. You can go Infinity Edge second, and also Bloodthirster build now better than ever, and a lot of Samira one-tracks decide actually to go Shield Bow into the Bloodthirster to give you the reliable sustain instead of the Collector. It's a rough game still. This is definitely a losable game. The thing is that as Aurelion, you're kind of infinitely scaling. And so that alone makes you a formidable late game unit. Very good at team fighting as well. And I think once people get the hang of him, I think he might be a little bit unbalanced. But you also have to get to the point where you're unbalanced, right? And that can be very hard on him. So, yeah, that was the ultimate. And doesn't it look beautifully majestic? So that is definitely something that Riot nailed. And now his Q damage also being shown off here. He does do quite a bit of it. Camille actually flashing out of his E there. Barely doesn't get executed. So good play on her, although she ended up going down anyway, but she wouldn't have gotten the trade there. That's Maokai. Now will help the Ashe acquire a kill here. Questionable Zionya. As Karma will eventually go down after showcasing how much effective HP Karma can have. Yeah, definitely not a tank. Supports are balanced nowadays. Yeah, Karma seems to be a little bit rough at the moment. Strong. Can be played in the top lane, can be played in the mid lane. And generally pretty underrated. Most of these supportive kind of mid laners, right? Like Zilean as well. Some players on the European server that have ridiculous win rates on that, on the Korean server as well. So generally not, terrible picks. Obviously, you will not live that fantasy of being the solo carry of the game. It's more of someone who has a lot of resources and then enables the enemy team. Can feel really good because it's much more freeing because you're less reliant on resources. So I like to play that from time to time because it's kind of, it allows you to just run all over the map and kind of create chaos instead of trying to do something. And I think here the lack of teleport is kind of showing because you can't really join the fights via teleport, so you have to stick around them, and that is a bit of an issue. As Samira will find herself out of position again. And we will try to play this more defensively. Let's see. So I think defensive Aurelion Sol is ridiculously scary. With his E and his R, he can lock down your team inside of his E. And can be very, very scary. Yeah, the W range is a little bit stupid. It does lock down the entire part of the base there. So does the ultimate. Questionable ultimate hit there. But obviously we are still unexperienced on the champion, so it does take longer than you would think. So people can run out of it. You will want some lockdown or at least some terrain morph to assist you with hitting it. Yeah, we're just gonna cross soak now. Just going to sit there and try to clear the wave. Camille trying to be as annoying as possible. It looks so funny. Yeah, the Q particles are definitely not rendering correctly in the Q looks a little bit more impressive in the real game than in the replay. But, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. Alright, so first inhibitor turret of the game goes down. It is in favor of the blue team here, so it's going to be interesting whether or not the red team can come back. Obviously, they do have a lot of zone control and a lot of area of effect, so generally should be very good at team fighting here. As, this could be a great situation here for the Aurelion Sol. As beautiful E will get the execute on the Orianna. And that is already a great start here as we are using the WQ correctly here. Just charging down the Ashe, who on the E will be executed as well. And that is looking absolutely mighty fine for the red team here. Playing just defensively whenever it is needed. And just closing down that base, not allowing the enemy to take anyone down there. That was a great one, and that was exactly the fight that you want on the Aurelion. This is exactly the kind of fight. It's a little chaotic, but everyone's still grouped up and already engaging on top of someone. That's exactly what you want. They're preoccupied with someone else, and you can press your E and R onto multiple enemies and just take them down. And yeah, later on, you become very bursty. So this is something that I have noticed for sure. You deal incredible amounts of damage. So the scaling is a little weird. I mean, yeah, I feel it feels a little weird because you deal a lot of damage, but it's kind of unpredictable. It comes in these spikes as you channel your Q, and then the execute of your E comes through, and your ultimate isn't really the thing that does a lot of damage. Your first hit of your ultimate, and so yeah, it's a bit rough. That's alright. Hecarim. Oh god, that Orianna ball. Ooh, that's a strong Orianna position. As beautifully evaded by the Samira, and now Orianna will go down. As the skies will descend on the enemy team, knocking them up for what feels like Morgana Q duration, and W chasing down the Pyke as well. We are going to win this fight on our own 100% here now, yeah. He does chase this one down. He could have let go of the Q there in order to move faster with the W. But still, 12, 4, and 11. And interestingly enough, I feel like this is almost exactly how my game went as well. Is you have so much impact on the game, and you kind of just, at a certain point, you just become so ridiculously strong that it's hard for the enemy team to move you. I personally also went for the ranged, newly buffed Demonic Embrace, which now is kind of back for ranged champions again, which feels very good. Together with your E and your Q. And obviously with the health that is provided, the effective HP that is provided from the Rod of Ages and the Seraphs. Absolute banger of a game. My last game, but this one's also good. Yeah, see, so like he doesn't do a lot of burst damage there, right? You saw that. But if the Maokai had stayed inside of the Q for a little bit longer, all of a sudden his HP would have been gone. And so here, now that the Q is max level, it is also possible for the Q to be channeled forever. Well, not quite forever, but for an incredibly long time, as the E used to zone out the Maokai there. Not a bad one, but also not as crazy of a zoning tool as you would think. Oh, we could have definitely played that more aggressive there, though. Sky's Descent not available, though. It is just going to be the Comet, which will just nuke Orianna. Just take her down. All right. So we are pretty close to the next Sky's Descent. And that one, again, fighting an Aurelion Sol who has Sky's Descent is going to be very toxic. Because, I mean, he cannot miss you. Like, it's very difficult for him to miss you. At this point, also the execution of his W, the execution circle, is huge. And a little bit like Ziggs, he is so good. So good at punishing you for doing objectives without having killed him. Very big AoE damage. As Maokai doing a lot of damage. With just a little bit of setup. Maokai is still such a strong champion. It's interesting how AP Maokai started as a support. And just ended up being, well, what he is right now. A jungler that is beautifully strong and stupid. Just presses WQ on you. And you just die. So yeah, very, very rough. Alright. So I think that optimally you want to get a Rabadons here instead of the Rylai's, because with the risk of me repeating myself, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. I think Rylai's just... It feels... You think it's better than it is. It feels better than it ends up being. That kind of deal. But I might be wrong about that. So the point is, at this stage of the game, engaging on top of the Aurelion Sol with multiple people also doesn't really help you anymore, because he is very tanky, and his area of effect is going to be ridiculous. Sky's Descent available here, as it will take down the Camille, or at least secure the Camille. Now the WQ is available as the enemy is on retreat. Beautiful lockdown, though, out of the Orianna there, stopping him from chasing them down. It's a little bit like Rumble. Is exactly where he becomes the strongest, is if he is able to run you down with that. As, okay, that was a decent takedown here on the Pyke as well. Big damage. But, you know, it's still a lot of the enemy team alive. So you can't really do the objective, and generally you can't really do that much. It's unfortunate you lost your jungler. If you had traded the other way around, maybe you could have. Because you have champions that are, like, decent-ish at taking... I wonder who's faster. Probably still Azir, huh? I don't know if Azir is faster than Aurelion Sol at taking Baron. I think Cassio probably takes the cake with that one. Cassio probably the highest Baron DPS, if she uses half of her mana. Aurelion Sol, not quite that. Yeah, not quite that. That's alright. We are moving into the proximity of the Baron again. This is just the dance that it is in late game. Enemy team will not overextend, will not give up the objective, but will be around to punish you if you start it. Yeah. Maokai value. Maokai is really rough to deal with in these situations. This is what Maokai excels at. The zone control is very strong in that one, as we are trying to bait out the little saplings. Ooh, enemy team overextended here, as Orianna will be caught out. The ultimate comes out, but it doesn't really do enough here, as the E. We are not really able to deal any damage in the fight as it stands right now, though. So we're just gonna move out for now and, yeah, try to replace that E. And you see how incredibly big the E is now with 500 stacks here of Stardust, obviously. And Camille, meanwhile, backdooring. I didn't notice. Enemy team didn't notice. And the ultimate is not going to clear that out, as Camille might actually just end the game here. Yeah, seems like she is going to end the game here. Well, GG. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Stay awesome.